This is your Anxiety Toolkit, episode number 280. Welcome to Your Anxiety Toolkit. I'm your host, Kimberly Quinlan. This podcast is fueled by three main goals. The first goal is to provide you with some extra tools to help you manage your anxiety. Second goal, to inspire you. Anxiety doesn't get to decide how you live your life. And number three, and I leave the best for last, is to provide you with one big, fat virtual hug. Because experiencing anxiety ain't easy. If that sounds good to you, let's go. Welcome back, everybody. I'm so thrilled to have you here with me again today. Today's format's going to be a little different. I kind of have fused the I did a hard thing with the question that we're going to address today. So usually I sit down to the microphone and I look at my screen and I think about what I want to talk about and I kind of just start talking about it. To be honest, that is how this show goes. It has always been how this show has gone. But a follower on Instagram reached out to me this week and posed a really great question. And so with her permission, I will anonymously invite you to listen to the question, and then we're going to talk about some solutions. The reason I wanted to go word for word is I think you're probably going to get what she's saying because I've been in this position. I know most of my clients have been in this position. It's not the funnest thing to talk about. I mean, I love talking about it, but it's not the funnest thing for you to talk about. Often people have a lot of shame and embarrassment around this topic. And so I wanted to let's just talk about it. Now, the reason I say I love to talk about it is, probably from previous episodes, I commonly ask my clients pretty personal questions. And often questions are like, are you prioritizing time to pee and poop? Are you holding your pee and poop? My job is to ask the questions that people are often too afraid to bring up. I often ask some personal questions about sexual arousal and things like that, again, because I have been trained to understand there's a lot of stigma and shame and embarrassment around these topics. And so I try to destigmatize them and take the shame out of them by just addressing them because they're normal human struggles that we have. So, as you may imagine, today we're talking about anxiety and pee and poop and how anxiety can often make us feel like we urgently need to pee and poop. That's the topic of today. So I'm going to read you this. It's a two-part question. I'm going to address them separately, okay? But all from the same situation. So it said, Kim, I hope you are well. I was reading your post yesterday about the hardest part of facing your fear. So to give you some backstory, I did a post on what the hardest thing about facing fears are. And I posed this question to Instagram and everyone wrote in. And using the results of what everyone wrote in, I created a post. And number 7 was physical symptoms, especially bowel issues. And it really resonated with me. You have said before that when you get feelings of discomfort, to just sit with it and do nothing. So that's a common theme I talk about is, if you have discomfort, do nothing at all, right? You just sit with it. But when it comes to the bowel issues or needing to urinate due to anxiety, I get confused at what to do. Should I be sitting with it or going to the loo? Because that's what my body needs. There are sort of two parts to my anxiety with this, so I'll give you an example. She said, this weekend I'm going to a christening and I get anxious for these types of events like christenings, weddings, theater, anywhere where there is lots of people and they sit together in a certain way. And I feel anxious about needing to go to the bathroom. So it's almost like I'm anxious of the symptom of anxiety. Yes. Now, this is exactly what it is like for so many people, and it's a really great question. So here is my response. Naturally, it's a normal part of the human instinct to need to pee and poop when you're anxious. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, when we were faced with danger, a beast or some kind of threat, In order to get away from that threat, usually you needed to be able to run many, many, many miles in a very short period of time. Now we have cars and planes to get away from danger, right? Or we have technology to help us to get away from danger. But back we needed to run that long distance and exert a lot of energy. And so naturally, our bodies get rid of weight and waste so that you can be prepared to run a long distance away from the threat. And often the easiest way to get rid of that waste and weight is to defecate, to go poo, and to urinate, which is to go pee, or in some cases throw up. Some people, when they're anxious, because their brain has detected danger, whether there's danger or not, you may do one of those three things. That's very, very normal approach to the fight, flight, and freeze. So in this case, let's say your brain has set off a false alarm and is saying, there's going to be lots of people there, and what if you need to pee and poop, right? So now you're afraid of the symptom of anxiety like they've asked. What do? So here is my answer to that. When we have any symptom of anxiety, increase in heart rate, sweating, lots of racing thoughts, it could be tummy ache, it could be the need to urinate. Yeah, we do want to practice the art of sitting with it, meaning tolerating it without reacting to it in an aversive way, meaning trying to resist it, make it go away. How can we remove this discomfort from our life? When we do that, we get into a cycle where you're constantly trying to get rid of discomfort, and that keeps you stuck. So in this situation, yeah, if you have a slight urge to urinate or to go to the bathroom, if you're able to, do try to tolerate that discomfort. However, if there's a strong urge to go to the bathroom, there is absolutely nothing wrong with going to the bathroom, right? So what I would say to you is it depends. The answer is it depends. And it's a very personal one, right? I will tell you a story personally. I know it's probably TMI, but I remember when I was becoming an American citizen, I was overwhelmingly anxious about this situation. I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of the test. I was really emotional about becoming an American. And, I felt like I was denouncing my country. I was so anxious about the security process. I was so afraid that I was going to mess up and get into some legal trouble, even though I'd done everything by the book. It was really, really overwhelming. And the minute I got in line, which were these thousands of people in line, I needed to go to the bathroom, like right now. It had to happen. And so in that instance, yes, I'm going to, ask somebody where the bathroom is, and I'm going to go to the bathroom, right? So I did. Okay, TMI, but we're talking about it, right? Everybody pees and poops, so I'm not embarrassed. Now, as soon as I got back in line, I lost my spot. I was at the back of the line again. My husband was with me. Uh-oh, I need to go bathroom again. And I already know I've probably, dropped a lot of that weight. My brain thinks that there's major danger when there's not. And so my job then is I could have easily gotten out of line again to try and get rid of that discomfort and that fear and that sort of uncomfortableness in my stomach. But because I knew I'd already gone, right, my job was I really need to get into this security building. It's a government building. I can't keep getting out of line. So my work then was to practice seeing if I could just hold that feeling. Now, I'm not here at all saying or suggesting that you should hold for long periods of time or even to be where you're tolerating an experience of pain. So again, it depends. The answer is it depends. If you've already gone, can you hold on? If, let's say, you're holding on and you're like, oh no, it's definitely coming, I need to go, by all means go. That's not a compulsion. It's just you listening to your body. It's you giving yourself permission to just go with the flow. And sort of, again, it's sort of a wonderful exposure of sort of giving your body's permission to run the show. So that's, I think the answer is listen to your body, see what you can do. Try to, again, we always want to be experimenting with tolerating discomfort for long periods or as long as you can. But for no reason should you hold for long periods of time and put yourself in additional pain. Now, that being said, If you're going to the bathroom just to remove your anxiety about going to the bathroom, or you're going to the bathroom to remove your anxiety of whether or not you will pee or poo your pants, that's a different story. If you're going to the bathroom to relieve anxiety, not physical, like actual urgency to go to the bathroom, well, then yes, you're giving in to fear, right? We don't want to let fear win, particularly when your brain's telling us there's danger when there's not. Perfect example, I'm becoming a citizen, I have to take a test. There's no real danger. Like the worst thing that could happen is I fail the test or I don't bring a paper or something, right? In this case for the ceremony, the worst thing that could happen is you would need to go to the bathroom, right? Like that, or, even if you're maybe, again, the worst thing that can happen is you would have to go. But if fear is saying, oh, no, there is really bad possible maybes, because fear does that, right? It always gives you the possible maybes. Then no, we would not go to the bathroom just to relieve anxiety, right? If a lot of people, specifically those with panic disorder, they are very, very afraid of the sensations of anxiety. And so your job is actually, if that's the case, to practice leaning in and having those sensations, tolerating those sensations. Or if you're going to do exposure and response prevention, even better, you would purposely try to create the scenario so that you could simulate the anxiety and practice tolerating it that way. So my answer, I know, isn't direct. It is a depends. But when it does come to fear, it's always going to be the same. Do not let fear make your choices, right? Do not, right? The next part of the question, I think, is another part of this, which I think is really important. So they said the second part is if I do need it and I have to leave the room during the ceremony, I wonder what people will think of me. And I feel like I'm being a disruption. Also, if I have to move past anyone or I sit down, I feel like a nuisance. And then too, so often at the end of the seat, so they sit at the end of the seat, just in case. Some of my compulsions, safety behaviors around this are needing to know where the nearest toilet is, going multiple times beforehand, or I may do a certain number of pelvic floor squeezes whilst in the toilet. They said, sorry if this is a long message. I just wanted to explain fully. I think the main thing I'm asking you is, should I be sitting with the feeling or not? If you do not see this, the rest is just saying about the message. So there we go. I think there's so much great opportunity here for exposure and really willingness to be uncomfortable. So the first thing is everyone pees and poops. There is no shame in needing to go to the bathroom. And I have a lot of clients who when they're anxious, they gotta go. Like it's not anxiety. They've got to go to the bathroom or there's going to be an accident, right? Not the fear. It's like, no, it's actually coming, right? So if that's the case, your job is to give yourself permission to be a human with anxiety and to be gentle and compassionate toward yourself that, yes, sometimes people need to leave ceremonies. If someone behind you is judging you for needing to leave, that is a full reflection on them. It means nothing about you. Human beings are allowed to come and go as they please, and if they need to pee and poop, that is their right. So what I would encourage you to do is, this is like a social anxiety sort of talk, and we've got some podcasts on social anxiety, but your job is to give other people permission to judge us and do nothing about it. Do nothing. Do nothing about their judgment, because their judgment is a full reflection of them and their beliefs, not of us, right? The next part is they've gone over a ton of safety behaviors, right? Checking the toilet, going multiple times. If it were my client, and you guys do what's right for you, always take what you need, leave the rest. But if it were my client or if it were myself, I would strongly suggest otherwise, right? Not doing these behaviors. We don't want to be doing behaviors, and this goes for every topic. We don't want to be doing behaviors just in case. The just in case behaviors keep us stuck in a cycle of anxiety. The just in case behaviors validate your fear as if your fear is true and important and a fact, and we don't want to do that, We can't do that because when we do that, we keep the fear cycling, right? So I would actually encourage you to not check for bathrooms, not go to the bathroom before, unless, of course, you genuinely need to, not just because of fear. And if for some reason you have the need, practice like saying, I can have it. The feeling is the pressure down in that bowel and that pelvic area, that won't kill you either, right? Lots of people, I always think of when I'm on an airplane to Australia and you know what happens. You get on the plane, you put your bags away, you're like getting ready. And then they say, preparing for takeoff and the seatbelt flight lights comes on. And then immediately you need to go pee and you can't get up. They won't let you. So you hold it. People hold it all the time. Again, we don't want you to push you through pain, but you can hold it. Like, be really honest with yourself. It's nothing terrible is going to happen. And if it's really urgent, of course, even on a plane, if you're really going to pee or poo your pants, they're going to let you stand up. They're not going to make you sit in the chair, right? So yeah, try not to be doing these behaviors. Practice tolerating the discomfort of other people possibly judging you. One thing to keep in mind here too is when, let's say you go back to my story, I had to leave the line. I could have done a lot of mind reading, which is a cognitive distortion, which is going, oh, they think this and he thinks that and she thinks that about me. And that's all mind reading. You don't actually know what they're thinking. They might be thinking, what a beautiful dress you're wearing. Or they might be thinking, man, I can't wait for this ceremony to be over. You have no idea. They might be thinking about something so different. So it's important that we also practice not mind reading what people think about us, right? And so there you have it, right? These urgencies to go are normal. And everyone pees and poops. Like, that's just the facts. It doesn't matter whether you do it once a day or 20 times a day, depending on if you're anxious. Give yourself permission to not be perfect. A lot of times we also talk about, when people are doing exposures or they're having a panic attack, they're like, it's not just the panic attack. I don't want people to see me having a panic attack. Or it's not just the anxiety. I don't want to have to cry in public. And the work here is, if you're a human being, you won't be perfect. And if you're holding yourself to a standard where you, number one, aren't allowed to cry, you're not allowed to pee, you're not allowed to poo, you're not allowed to disrupt other people, well, that's a lot of expectations you're putting on yourself. That's a lot of pressure that you just created in your head. Like, no one else is expecting perfection from you. So maybe adjust the expectations there as well. Now, the last thing I will address, which isn't specifically to the pee and the poop, is some people get a lot of gas when they're anxious, right? They have a strong urgency to pass gas. This is very common for people who have irritable bowel syndrome. Same with getting diarrhea or needing to pee. This is very common. So if you have IBS, please do speak with a doctor. Let them know that you're struggling with this. There's nothing to be ashamed of. They can, of course, diagnose you, make sure they maybe get you some help in those areas. Again, if you need to pass gas, no different. Humans pass gas. It's not something to be completely ashamed of. And yes, is it embarrassing? Yes, it is. But you do what you have to do. You kind of just have to get through. And I've heard so many people tell me stories of their most anxious moment being made more difficult because they had no choice but to pass gas during that. And if that's the case for you as well, again, I think any human who ridicules someone for needing to pass gas, which is such a human thing, I think we pass gas like 17 times average a day. Everyone, not select people, anyone who passed judgment on you for that is probably may want to sort of step up their ability to be compassionate and empathic. Again, it's not about you, it's about them. And so be super, super gentle with yourself. Okay, so I think I hit my limit of how many times I said pee and poop. And now we've added in pass gas, and we've even used the diarrhea word, which I think is epic. So I think I've checked all the boxes for today's episode. And so I hope that it was helpful for you. And I genuinely hope that it just dropped some of the anxiety and judgment you have about yourself in regards to the urgency to need to go and pee and poop. So if I were to summarize it, I would say it's very common to need to urinate, go to the bathroom, or even pass gas. Lots of people have even diarrhea, very, very strong diarrhea. If that is the case for you, do what you need to do as best as you can. It's okay if you need to go to the restroom, no problem. If you're only going to reduce your anxiety about needing to go, I encourage you to try and challenge that some. Again, we do not want to give all of our power to fear. We actually want to ignore fear and give it none of our attention. And if you can do that, you're doing amazing hard work. Okay? I love you all so much. Thank you for holding space for me as we talk about all things bowel related and urination related. Even though it's uncomfortable, it is so important for us to be having these conversations. I hope, again, it was helpful for you. And thank you for holding space for me as we talk about these things together. All right. I love you all. I hope you're having an amazing, amazing week. I hope you're being super kind to yourself and really opening your heart to your own suffering instead of shutting it down, because, your suffering matters. It deserves to be held tenderly. Okay? It is a beautiful day to do hard things. I cannot finish an episode without saying it. So I encourage you, if you've gotten this far in the episode, to practice the hard things as much as you can every single day. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Please note that this podcast or any other resources from cbtschool.com should not replace professional mental health care. If you feel you would benefit, please reach out to a provider in your area. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for supporting cbtschool.com.